And we are back once again. We are here for the blind round. As a reminder to those of you watching at home, the prompts that they were given were to name a sci-fi film and then name a film with Sam Worthington released in the 2000s. The question is, what is the worst sci-fi film of all time, and what is the best film of Sam Worthington's in the 2000s? So we are going to go ahead and jump into this because this round is already enough fuckery as is to begin with. The actual debates are going to stay the same: 1, 2, 4, and then 1. This has been an excellent title match so far, guys. Best of luck to both of you. Amaru, you are first on the odds, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you with The Matrix. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Worst of all time in anything takes into consideration what it was like when it came out, but even more so, how is it now? Because it has to go up against what it was going for it then, what it is in the past, and what is in the future. And when you look back at The Matrix is not as interesting as it seems to be. It's one of the worst of all time because with age, it just gets more and more stiff, just like its lead. The guy who should have never been the lead in the first place, Keanu Reeves, can't act. And he is stiff and uninteresting. And having to see him take the lead as the one before more interesting characters just makes you just feel so upset and angry. And just in general, the more and more you look into The Matrix, the more and more it doesn't hold up. And the worse and worse it gets because the setup is so great, but the delivery ends up just falling flat. With that, I can see the rest of my time.
All right, so that is the opening for The Matrix. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Henry for the opening on 2001. Time starts when you begin speaking.
I swear to God, this is just a coincidence. Every time that Baru goes first, he really helps my argument with what is set up, what is precedent of what the question is. And the worst sci-fi movie of all time, once again, is, thank you. It is not, I already said it. It is not what it was at the time, but also what it is now. 2001: A Space Odyssey wasn't received well at the time. And nowadays, if you ask anyone under the age of, 247 years old, they're going to say 2001: A Space Odyssey is way too long, way too boring. I don't know what the fuck it meant. I don't know what the point was. And low key, I probably didn't finish it. If you ask them what they felt about The Matrix, regardless of what time span that or what era that they watched it in, they're like, at the end of the day, it was fine. Like, and I'm talking worst case scenario, and I'm talking about one of the best movies of all time in The Matrix. But I'll give you the benefit of the doubt of worst case scenario. They're still going to say it's fine as a movie as a whole. Whereas in 2001: Space Odyssey, it didn't really even hold up at the time, and definitely in today's eyes, it does not hold up.
And time. I want the judges to please not take this quip into consideration, but as a young person who did finish 2001: A Space Odyssey, it helped me when I beat you. With that said, we're going to go back over to Amaru. Time starts when you begin
speaking. Not about
the
actual movie, fucker.
Time starts when you begin speaking, Gru.
Why is Morpheus, Lord Fishburne, the most interesting character in this whole movie, not the guy we're following? Why is he not the lead? Why are we following this guy who is so stiff that every time he talks, he has to move his head like this? If you don't watch Epic Rap Battles of History, Keanu Reeves just came out in an Epic Rap Battles, and he literally did this the whole time because he's so uninteresting. But past that point, it's really just the fact that they build up these ideas that seem so smart, seem so interesting, and what it devolves into. Henry said the movie is fine, and what you think is fine about the movie is the way it looks and the action and all of that. But it's what it ends up being in the end, more like the second half on, that really kills everything after already having to deal with Keanu trying to act through all of this intelligence, but just saying, whoa, to somebody who's way more interesting. The bullet time, which, yes, is influential, is only really good when he does the back bend. The entirety of the millions of bullets shootout in between the office building is so, like, how are you all not dead yet? How are these backflips making you miss? It is so unrealistic. It is so, oh, wait a second. We're getting this smart idea of all these people plugged into the Matrix, and instead of answering the question, okay, whether Neo wins or dies, what happens to those people? Where are those going? What is going on with the actual world around? What are the aftermath of that? We end with shootout, bullets, flips, Darkness, give me guns, give me more guns. And then the trope of the bad guy getting beaten to the good guy getting beaten to a pulp and basically dying, and then coming back because of love's kiss. Oh, why would you put me in this situation where I am kind of pulled in despite Keanu Reeves, and then you just drop everything and make it a comic book movie we've seen millions of times before? I can't stand it.
And time. All right, Henry, back over to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
So I have 2 minutes to talk here. I'm only actually going to need to defend Matrix in 30 seconds because it's going to answer all your questions easily. All the issues you have with the Matrix took place in, the Matrix. So all the fantasy aspects of it isn't real, my guy. So that's why you're able to do that. It's about believing. Trinity is a badass motherfucker because she believes and she knows and that she can be a badass. Agent Smith literally says it earlier. Your men are already dead because he already knows what Trinity is capable of. The whole reason that Neo becomes the one is not because of his physical ability. It's about his mental. And that's what he needs to develop up to that point. And that is the issue that we're building up into it. The fact that the Oracle literally says all the things that you says about the love's kiss and, oh, I get why she likes you. It builds up to it. It's so smart and so great. It might have been a little more 30 seconds, but that's how great Matrix is that I wanted to talk about a little more. 2001, I'm dreading talking about it because I don't want to be put to sleep. Tomorrow is my only off day of this week, and thinking about 2001 is going to put me to sleep. Everything about 2001, it might look okay from 1968's perspective, but if you actually think about it, it's clearly a model. Name me a character from 2001: A Space Odyssey other than HAL 9000. A single one. I can name you multiple characters from the Matrix: Neo, Trinity, Morpheus, Agent Smith, Tank. You can go on and on. The Oracle. I can go on and on and on. You don't know anything about 2001: Space Odyssey because even if you saw it and made it all the way through, you didn't care. Everyone that praises 2001: Space Odyssey is a film nerd. And the only reason that they're praising it is because they are told they are supposed to by their professor or by anything of that. They don't actually care about the movie. No one actually talks about this movie in a highlight from a legit fan perspective. If I ask you right now, which movie would you rather watch, even if you think The Matrix is trash, which once again, I'm only saying worst case scenario, even if you think The Matrix is trash, you are still going to put on The Matrix before you put on 2001: Space Odyssey because there's nothing to attach to. The Matrix is one of the greatest movies of all time, let alone not the worst sci-fi movie.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the 4-minute open discussion. Timer starts when the first competitor speaks.
You have Dave and Frank.
10 minutes for research. Name me anything about 2001 and tell me why it's bad or why it's great.
You have Dave and Frank, the main two people who are trying to get to Jupiter, and they're the main characters. But even then, 2001: A Space Odyssey is a slow burn. It is the first thing you think of when you think of sci-fi because it's the first one to go into aliens coming in.
Think of Blade Runner?
No, because
you don't think of
no. And you asking me these questions don't change the fact that it is the most influential sci-fi film of all time. Arguably, it is one of the best movies of all time. Yes, it's a slow burn. Yes, you have to get through a lot of the things, but nothing was more influential than the fact of aliens being the reason why why weapons were created. The idea of AI versus humanity, the ideas that it brought about making us look into ourselves, making us look into our.
We didn't even get introduced to HAL 9000 until halfway through the movie, and it's a 2.5-hour movie. You don't care about everything of the dawn of man isn't even brought up later in the movie. Everything about the monolith, it's one of those questions where even today we don't know what it means. Guess what? One of my favorite movies of all time, Mulholland Drive. I don't know what it means. David Lynch doesn't know what it means. But guess what? The masses don't care about that movie because they don't know what it means. Same thing with 2001. Everyone understands The Matrix. Massive
reception and rewatchability do not make a movie bad. I love crappy movies. I love to death Rush Hour 2, but everybody will say it is the worst movie of all time. They are wrong.
Those same people would say that they would rather watch Rush Hour 2 over 2001.
But that doesn't make it better, doesn't make it more influential. You talked about how everything that I said was answered because it happened in The Matrix. Exactly. Everything that's bad about it happens in The Matrix. Everything that's actually
in The Matrix is all a simulation. The concept of The Matrix is a simulation. That's the point.
Which is everything that is so wrong about the movie. The movie is wrong because it devolves into the tropes of sci-fi elements. It devolves into everything we've seen before.
Name me a movie that happened before it that made that a trope. If it is a trope, it became a trope. Guess what? It happened one night. If you watch it in today's eyes, you're like, oh, all that movie is a rom-com trope. Guess what? It started it. Name me some.
Guess what had better action sequences? Blade. Guess which one had the character almost dying and then coming back and winning? Blade. That's one that I can pick. I'm not going to go through all of them and answer your question, but Blade is a perfect one that actually happens in the real world. But anyway,
the worst sci-fi movie. You're talking about all these tropes.
Vampires are sci-fi. Come on. Anyway, like I said, you talked about everything that happens in the Matrix. The Matrix is the reason why it is so bad, because everything that's more interesting is happening in the real world. I want to know what's happening in the real world. I want to know what's happening in Morpheus. Everything in 2001 has been influential. It's the one that created the AI versus sci-fi. Looking into it, I will probably not rewatch 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I know how good that movie is, how much it takes sci-fi and builds it on a massive scale, how it makes you think about our place in the universe, our place against technology, our place amongst ourselves, past, present, and future. It doesn't have to be watchable. It has to be good.
I want to inform you on something real quick. I know you're talking about 2001: Space Odyssey set the precedent for sci-fi, but guess what? Metropolis exists from the 1920s. That is a movie.
And Metropolis is the most boring thing ever, but I understand how good it is. I understand how good it is.
Precedent of AI and sci-fi. Metropolis did it first. So all the protests you're giving for 2001: Space Odyssey is not the first.
And just like rewatchability is not the thing that means best. First also does not mean best, because 2001. That's the one that everybody goes to. They don't go to Metropolis because 2001 took what Metropolis did and made it better, and that's what made it
not still 100%. It's really close to 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. People still go to it, my guy.
And time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to the 1 minute closings. Amaru, you are up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Here's the deal. Henry is trying to argue that long and boring and rewatchable and not the first are makes it the best, not the worst of all time. 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of the best movies of all time, not because it's rewatchable, not because it was the first to do it, but because it took things that came from the past and made them better and made us look inside ourselves and look at our connection to the universe, look to our connection to time, look at our connection to the cosmos, look into our connection into AI, and made it better and still works today. While The Matrix, which is seen as one of the most influential, actually, when you look back at it, the one scene of bullet time going backwards, it's nothing compared to the millions of bullets that you've seen in multiple movies before that don't kill people that should be dead. The stiff main actor who should be second fiddle to a better actor. The stiff martial arts that are done in better movies. As I said, Blade. Everything that is bad about it is in The Matrix, isn't real. It's more interesting
and
where it should have been.
All right, and then Henry, you have the final minute of the round.
The Matrix is one of the greatest movies of all time. It handles everything that you want from a sci-fi element as well as for character element. You have the rise and the power of Neo, who becomes the one. It has the journey. It has the character elements. You can think of multiple characters from that movie: Trinity, Morpheus, etc., etc., etc. I've already said them. With that said, 2001: Space Odyssey is a movie that at the time wasn't well received, and if you look at it today, no one's really going to care about it. It's a movie that you don't understand the plot, you don't care about it, you don't connect to any characters, you don't have any quotes. It's not real watchable. It's a movie that maybe looked good in a couple scenes, but you don't understand it. And at this time, when you think of a sci-fi movie, there's plenty of movies in the sci-fi genre that you would rather watch. So this is a movie that honestly looks down on the sci-fi genre, because when you think of the genre, people are like, I don't really want to watch it. Similar to what we talked about the horror franchise, it's one of the bottoms, because when you think of, imagine this being the only sci-fi movie you've ever watched or your introduction to sci-fi, you're never going to want to watch sci-fi again. If you watch The Matrix, you're like, wow, not only am I going to want to know more about sci-fi, this is probably my favorite movie of all time. No one is saying about 2001: Space Odyssey it's a bad movie. You don't care about anything in it.
And time. All right. Great round, guys. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in the back as we will bring the judges in for the deliberation off the back of this round. So the only thing that I can really fully fact check here is Rotten Tomatoes was brought up. Now, because there was a little bit of the overlap, I wasn't 100% sure as to which film he was referencing the score for, so I just pulled up all three to give a general prompt of which one. So Metropolis, which was the one that they were kind of comparing 2001 to, currently has a 97% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes with a 9.1 out of 10 score for critics. Similar 92% approval for audiences with a 4.4 out of 5 for audiences. 2001: A Space Odyssey has a 92% approval rating with a 9.3 out of 10 score for critics and an 89% approval rating for audiences with an average average score of 4.4. The Matrix has an 88% approval rating for critics with a 7.8 out of 10 score, and an 85% approval rating for audiences with a 3.6 out of 5 score. So obviously all very, very high on the grand scale of film, but The Matrix is, in terms of, if we're just looking at the facts, the lowest rated of the three, although arguably not by very much. And they all do have a comparable number of reviews submitted, of course. But with that said, Papa, I'm going to go up to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
This was very, very back and forth. And this is by far the toughest decision I've ever faced in my 28 years of existence. But after a lot of debate, I have gone with Rubert. I really love the fact that he brought up the rewatchability does not make a good movie, and brought in the Rush Hour 2. Talked about how his movie was boring, doesn't make sense, all this, but also brought in the acting performances not being good, which I felt like was something Henry was missing in his argument.
Okay, and then Jeremy, down to you.
I'll echo everything that Papa just said. I mean, I'm giving it to Rue for all of the exact same reasons.
All right. Well, judges, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the back as we will go ahead and bring the competitors back in. We are going to go ahead and move on to the second blind round question, which, again, we don't have to break for. The competitors have done their prep for it. The question, once again, is, what is the best Sam Worthington film released within the 2000s? I'm going to go ahead and give you guys just a bit of a second breather before we get going. Henry, you are up first on this question. So for Terminator Salvation, the time starts when you begin speaking.
So not only is Terminator Salvation the best movie for Sam Worthington 2000s, it's one of the better movies in the Terminator franchise, which granted doesn't have that highs, but when you think of Terminator 2, one of the greatest movies of all time, Terminator 1, one of those movies that still holds up to this day that you wouldn't expect to, and in terms of Salvation is right up there with it. So saying it's technically third in that franchise isn't a knock on it. That's like saying the sixth best movie in the Tarantino filmography is not a good movie. It's not the case. It's still good. You know what I mean? Terminator Salvation showcases that everything that all the questions that you had from the Terminator franchise up to this point of what is going on in present day. It has a fantastic direction from McG. He handles everything that you want from this world. Christian Bale's character as John Connor is fantastic, as well as Sam Worthington's character as oh my god, I'm blanking on right now. I'll get it in the 2-minute rebuttal. But his character, it was the guy from the first Terminator. I'm blanking right now. I'm drunk. But anyway, it's one of those things. This movie is the best of this entire 2000s because it is one that you're going to rewatch within this franchise as well as the 2000s.
And time. And just because I'm fact checking the big stuff, I'm sure it'll come up at some point. So I'll throw out the fact check. It is Anton Yelchin as Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
As I'm presuming who you were going for. That said, Amaru, you have Avatar. Over to you.
I don't think there's a more special movie, whether you liked it or hated it, or or you're looking back at it and giving more hate than deserves. But I don't think there's a more special movie that's come out in the past in this century than Avatar. It was all hype. It built up hype, and it lived up to that hype. It's James Cameron at his best. It's what made the Terminator films so great, but at a bigger scale. James Cameron is best creating blockbusters that you connect with, creating blockbusters that live up to the action, that live up to the sci-fi, that live up to the scale, but also bring acting performances and story beats that make you care, that make you really like it. And for me, that's Avatar. That I'll concede the rest of my time.
Okay. So you have Terminator Salvation versus Avatar. Henry, your 2 minutes are up next. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. You can start speaking once the clock hits 0. If you need more time, I obviously will pause.
Yes, obviously Kyle Reese is a character I was thinking of. It's one of those ones. It's a big part of the thing. And it's one of those ones where if you look at a franchise, and a lot of times, a lot of criticisms within franchises is we didn't need that question answered, or we didn't like the answer that we got from that question. What we got in Terminator Salvation, it actually handled all the questions that we wanted from the Kyle Reese character, which at that point, other than John Connor as a grown man, which we had met as a grown man, is one of those characters that we would like to get to know a little bit more because we want to know what inspired him to go back in time into Terminator 1 as technically a suicide mission, knowing that he would never get to come back because his sacrifice is essentially what is going to, transpond of the entire Terminator franchise. Terminator Salvation is one of those movies that when you think of the world, the grittiness, the darkness, the acting of Christian Bale, honestly, a lot of the criticisms of this movie is more of the meme-worthy stuff of the Christian Bale yelling at the guy, from that behind-the-scenes stuff. But if you actually look at the film, both from a script perspective as well as directing and acting perspective, it's one of those things that it holds up to the original Terminator. Obviously, T2 is S tier, but Terminator 1 and Terminator Salvation are like neck and neck because technically there's a lot of things about Terminator 1 that doesn't hold up from an 80s perspective. Everything about Terminator Salvation is set in the future, so there's nothing about it that is ever going to be dated, whether it's even from the directing and acting perspective. There's nothing about it you're going to look at it and be like, wow, that happened in the year 2009. You're never going to think that because it's set to a T. The stuff in Avatar, I'm going to be honest, my guy, no one is looking forward to Avatar Way of the Water because of no one really cared about this movie. At the time, it was a spectacle. I will give you that. But a year, 2, 3 years later, let alone 13 years later, no one cares. A lot of people forget that James Cameron is one of the greatest directors of all time because of what happened in Avatar. It's one of those movies. It is just a retread of what we saw in movies such as Dancing with Wolves, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of those things it just doesn't work.
And time. All right, I'm going to be back over to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
You talk about the meme, and Avatar is probably one of the most victimized movies of all time to the meme. Everybody thinks that Avatar was not as special as it is. And if you look into the reviews that are coming out now, just initial thoughts, the majority of them are saying, oh my gosh, James Cameron did it again. Let's not think that Avatar isn't special anymore because he reminded us why Pandora was so special. You mentioned Dances with Wolves and going into another culture and integrating it and saying it was a retread of that. There's a reason why Dances with Wolves won Best Picture and Avatar was nominated, because when you actually put some thought into that type of story, when you put some thought into loving a culture and integrating your into culture and letting love be and family be the connecting feature of it, it's what makes Avatar so great. It's an interesting concept that real life, what is happening in the real world, is also as interesting as what's happening in the Matrix-like virtual reality, because actually Pandora is real and they made you care about it all. They made Sam Worthington likable. They made Sam Worthington an interesting character, but more so because of the people around him. Zoe Saldana is one of the most underrated actresses ever, who's been in so many great blockbusters, but because she's been in blockbusters, you don't remember how visceral and how strong her performance is in motion capture. And no movie is as good as its villain. If its villain is not great, then it's nothing. And Stephen Lang is the perfect military man to go against it. And everything about this movie, when you return to it, is so good. Sigourney Weaver, when she dies, you feel it. Look, I like Salvation, actually. I think Salvation is pretty good. The difference is, to be the best Sam Worthington film of the 2009s, you cannot compare pretty good, okay Terminator film to one of the most special films of all time, in Avatar.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the open discussion. The timer starts when the first competitor speaks.
That made me laugh because I did realize that they both happened in 2009. Everything about that you just praised Zoe Saldana for, it's one of those things that people forget that she's in this movie because it's so forgettable as years gone by. No one is forgetting about Andy Serkis in the Lord of the Rings movies, as specifically Gollum, not just movies, because of his performance. So motion capture bullshit, don't give me that. Everything with Terminator Salvation, it's one of those movies that expands on this world. This is one of those movies that a lot of people might be giving praise to the new movie, but guess what? People give praise to Top Gun Maverick as one of the better movies right now, but a lot of people shit on the original Top Gun. So just because they're giving praise to the sequel doesn't mean the original is as good. It doesn't hold up. It's one of those movies that the concept is retreaded, but it doesn't really do it. Sam Worthington is stiff as wood. Guess what? Sam Worthington in Terminator Salvation is not the lead, so we don't really care. So his lack of being the guy doesn't affect Terminator Salvation as a whole.
People forget there's always Saldana's performance because of the meme, because of the retroactive hate that they give. They are going to be reminded, and they're reminded every time they go back, because James Cameron made sure that the acting performances, the story, the world, the epicness, all have the same level of greatness that it reaches. So if anybody forgot, aside from the hate that it gets when you don't go back and rewatch it, it's probably because the world was so intricate. The story, the connection of having a family and being in love and making sure that surpasses any different connections. When you have love, you can move forward. You talked about Sam Worthington being stiff. Guess what? We don't see him most of the movie because he is playing a blue character. So we don't have to worry about the stiffness. We get to hear his voice. We get to hear his voice. His voice is actually his best part. It's the thing you remember from Sam Worthington. Everything that you consider and you think back and you say, hey, maybe Avatar wasn't as good as it was. When you really sit down with the movie, you realize, damn, I just decided to go with the crowd and not realize how great this movie was.
See, that's
Terminator
the difference.
Salvation.
People instinctively is like Avatar is not as good as it was because of the spectacle and because of the awe and because of the quote unquote innovation that's set in 2009 doesn't hold up. Terminator Salvation, now it's come to the point where it always got a lot of praise at the time, but now people go look back and you're like, wow, now that I've seen definitely since I've seen Terminator Genesis, Terminator Dark Fate, Terminator Salvation among the top tier of the Terminator franchise, and knowing that if we do something different and we don't just do a retread like we got in Dark Fate and Genesis, that the Terminator franchise still has something to it, and that's what we got in the Terminator Salvation. Avatar is a movie that when you look at it, it's overlong. It's one of those things that if you literally watch it on mute, you probably love it. But if you watch it with the volume on, it's not going to be as much. If you watch Terminator Salvation at any time, you're going to be like, this movie is a banger because it really puts me in that world and it makes me afraid of that world. And if you put yourself in Avatar, you're like, this movie looks good, but at the end of the day, I don't really care about these guys. I don't really care about this. And the military stuff is as so cliche as it gets.
You talked about rewatchability earlier. Avatar is the most rewatched movie of all time. Nobody cares about how long it is because they kept going back to go see it. And there's a reason for that. So the overlong doesn't matter. And you talked about Terminator Salvation being the best in the Terminator franchise. That's not a high bar to clear. So again, I actually agree with you. Outside of T2, Revelation is pretty good, but it's just okay. You get cyborgs.
James Cameron's filmography, a lot of people are not even thinking of Avatar. A lot of people are thinking of movies that happened 40 years before. Even though Avatar is his most recent movie, people forget James Cameron exists nowadays because of what Avatar set at his point in his filmography. It is a brown stain on his report card.
Except for the fact that every few months, the fact that what is the most highest grossing movie of all time, Endgame or Avatar, keeps coming back. So even if it's about the money that it comes back, the conversation keeps coming back.
Like, I didn't finish it the first time. I guess I need to go rewatch it again and watch it again.
Everybody finished it the first time because they went back and saw it in theaters before it even ended. It's run.
All right, we are going to go into the 1 minute closings. Henry, you're back up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Obviously, the money thing, people are going to be like, oh, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, no one knows exactly why people saw a movie multiple times for it to make them a lot of money. So if you want to use that as the reason that you're going to vote for it, that's fine. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about what is the best Sam Worthington film released in the 2000s, that is Terminator Salvation, because that is a movie that not only utilizes the world of the Terminator franchise in the future, but also gives weight to the past as well as the future, because there's still stuff happening in the future of the Terminator world. Everything that happens with Sam Worthington's character you care about because there's a lot of things. You look at him as a soldier and you actually care about him. When you look at him in the Avatar world, he is the least important part of that movie. And when you look at everyone else, you don't even remember. You're like, oh yeah, Stephen Lang was in that movie. Oh yeah, Sigourney Weaver was in that movie. Oh wow, I forgot Zoe Saldana was in that movie. When you think of Christian Bale as one of the greatest actors of all time, you're like, hell yeah, he was in Terminator Salvation. You're like, wow, everything that I'm thinking about Anton Yelchin, you're like, hell yeah, he was in Terminator Salvation. It is one of the better movies in the Terminator franchise and the best one of the 2000s.
And time. All right, and then Amaru, back over to you for the final minute of the round.
You want to say people forget about Avatar, except that they don't, because it's continuously in the conversation because of how much movie it made, which proved money it made in its first theatrical run, which proved that it is extremely rewatchable. People wanted to go back to a 3-hour movie in a movie theater to a tune of more than billions and billions of dollars, meaning people had reason to go back and sit and watch again. And you know those reasons? despite Sam Worthington's normal stiffness, it's because of the action that was epic. It's because of the world building that was epic. It's because of the writing and story of love and family that was epic. The performances, despite Sam Worthington, knowing to put Sam Worthington in VR and use his voice, and then use Zoe Saldana's extremely visual voice, and Stephen Lang in person and not in person. Well, everything we've talked about in terms of Avatar has been about all of those. I can't remember even in this argument what we talked about in Terminal Salvation, except that it was better than the other two really piece of shit movies. The acting, okay. The performances, okay, and special.
And
there is no competition.
All right, go ahead and put you guys in the back. Once again, another excellent round. You guys have really put up your best tonight. As we put you guys in the back to bring in our judges for the decision here. The only real quick thing to fact check with this is when talking about Terminator Salvation's place within the franchise, obviously there is no one source that is the end-all be-all. Everybody has their own opinions. But for what it's worth, Rotten Tomatoes, which does keep franchise rankings based on their scores, according to the critic rankings of the Terminator films, Terminator Salvation is 4th in the franchise, with Dark Fate in 3rd, T2 in 2nd, and the first one in 1st place. According to the audience scores, Terminator Salvation is 4th place in the franchise. It is, again, the same 3 are ahead of it, but this time, actually, I feel like I hit that wrong. Either way, it's about 3rd or 4th, depending on where you view it. So it's in the middle of the franchise for most people. But with that said, we're going to turn it over to the judges. It is to Jeremy this time up first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
I'm giving it to Rue again on this round. The main selling point is that Henry brought up like the stiffness of Sam Worthington, and then Amaru instantly showed. Well, they covered that up in Avatar by making him blue and using him as mostly CG, and he doesn't move around. So that counterpoint was the deciding factor for me.
All right, which means Kevin will go over to you. Same question.
Yeah, Henry did a great job, I think, trying to, defend this, saying that it stands out among Genesis and Dark Fate as one of the better Terminator films of all time. But when you compare it against Avatar, Avatar really is a special film. I love how Amaru compared it to Dances with Wolves, making love the real feature there. So my vote goes to Amaru.
All right. So with that, it is a 3-3 tie. Judges, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the back because we are going all the way, guys. We are going
I expected nothing less from this. Whew.
All right. So we'll go ahead and jump into the speed round. How does the speed round work for our competitors? The way that this is going to work is this is a best 2 out of 3. So there are 3 speed round questions that we will play. It is the first person to take 2 points. So at this point, a competitor will need to score 5 points in order to win the game. The first 2 questions the competitors got with their initial 4. So they are questions in which they have had time to prep the answers for them. The third question isn't kept secret. We give it to them. However, it's not going to be tricky like a blind round question. It'll just be given straight up to them. In terms of how the actual round will work, there will be a 60-second opening. That will be followed by a 90-second expansion period, and then a 30-second closing period. There is no open discussion round in the speeds. Following that, the judges are going to be brought on screen. Similar to previous number 1 contenders matches and title matches, the competitors are just simply going to say who won, and then we're going to move on to the next question until we have a winner. That said, guys, this has been probably the best title match we've had so far. It's as neck and neck as it can possibly get. So I wish you both the best of luck. Let's go ahead and get to it. And with that said, it's unfortunate behind the scenes, because we always are transparent. We had to switch out some judges at the last minute, and it's unfortunate that one of them could not be here because this first question is actually a viewer submitted question. It was sent in by somebody who just happened to be available to judge. So they could have been here to see their question. Instead, they're watching it on video. So let's all go and give a big wave to Madi Raymond, who submitted the question. It is, what is the best chase scene by car or on foot from a comic book movie? And that we're going to debate. So continuing the odd one, even. So I will give you guys the time. I will once again wish you one last final best of luck. Let's get this over with. Time starts when you begin speaking, Rick.
Aaron, I'm assuming you said I'm starting. You cut out very well, so I just want to make sure I'm in, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
Cool. The next thing I'm going to say is my start.
Yes, you're good.
Captain America Winter Soldier is the best comic book movie probably ever, in my opinion. And it has the best chase scene where after Bucky shoots Nick Fury, you get Cap chasing Bucky, and it starts off with badass Cap. We've gotten leadership Cap. We've gotten good Cap. But badass Cap is telling him I'm in pursuit. And then the Winter Soldier theme for the first time, one of the first times you hear it, and it builds as the chase builds. You see the entire chase in Cap's perspective. So you only see a shape of Bucky, the Winter Soldier, from his perspective in a building as he's going past beam after beam after beam. And then you see Cap just running as fast as he can, going through walls, parkouring off of that, and then blasting with the shield, door, window, jumping from one building to the next through the window, and you see it from the perspective of outside the building. So you see the scaffolding running by, and the entirety of the scene is just intensity upon intensity upon intensity until the final badass catch of Winter Soldier catching the shield. The screech hits again. He throws it back, and then he disappears into nothing.
Time. All right, Henry, over to you. 1 minute.
So it's ironic that we picked scenes that were from the same franchise and deal with the same characters. But this is the scene from Captain America Civil War. And this is the best chase scene on foot and on car from a comic movie that handles with both. And this is the first comic chase of all time that I can ever think of that actually showcases the actual super abilities of these characters. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Black Panther, all with their super speed. This is the introduction of Black Panther, which is also epic in its own right, but also it is the emotion that you're dealing with Captain America trying to save Bucky as well as trying to help him with this saving him as well as trying to protect him from this chase. But you also have Black Panther, because at the time he's dealing with the Winter Soldier who had killed his father of T'Chaka, and he's really got that emotional impact to it. So not only does it actually have the action that you want from a chase scene, but also has the emotion that is already built up and is already set from this. You didn't get the emotion of the chase scene from the Winter Soldier movie until the end, until the reveal of Bucky. So yes, you do get it later and it builds up to it and it is the cap of it. But this entire chase in Civil War is emotional, but it also is epic and action-packed and
time. All right. Amaru, back over to you. You have 90 seconds.
This is a chase scene. This is an action scene. What emotion do we need? What we want is everything being a full minute and 15 of intensity. And I mean everything. The score builds after that epic line that builds the ferocity that Cap has going through every single wall, jumping over every single table, throwing the shield at the end, which is then built on by the mystery and intrigue you get from the cinematography, having the scaffold run by across your face. Utilizing space is the best use of everything, of a minute and 15 seconds of pure buildup until he jumps through the door. Then the score stops to make you hold your breath. He throws it at Bucky. Bucky catches it. You see it in his eyes. That intensity. If you want emotion, that emotion is there with the action that we want. And then he comes. Cap has to catch it. Bucky then disappears like it's Michael Myers disappearing from being thrown off the roof. Mine is a minute and 15 seconds straight of intensity in a chase scene. Yours is, yes, they're showing their superpowers, but they use the score from Captain America, which is rah rah. And what it ends up being is cool shootout, then 30 seconds of them running. It's a lull. And then another moment of, hey, he jumps on the back of the car, and then Cap is driving, and he's driving some more, and he looks at one rearview mirror, then he looks at another rearview mirror, and then, okay, well, oh, he jumps over the car, cool, and Bucky steals the bike, but then it's more driving, and then it's police cars crashing, It's not even very fast. It's literally cool moment, 30 seconds of dullness of what we've seen before. Cool moment, 30 seconds of dullness of what we've seen before. Cool moment, 30 seconds of what we've seen before. I don't want that kind of chase.
All right, Henry, over to you.
So I respect you for attempting to try and downplay my chase scene by trying to overplay the fact that it's cool down. But guess what? That is you over-exaggerating. That is you literally reaching to try and negate the effects of my chase scene. Your chase is literally straightforward of what it's representing. And it's doing essentially what we've seen before. If you insert literally any other movie characters from any time up to this point, you can still have an effective chase scene. But if you insert any other characters from my chase scene, it just doesn't hit, because this is the first time in movie history from superheroes where you actually see their super speed. This is the first time that you actually see it, other than Days of Future Past, where it's literally he's the only person. But this is the first time in a chase sequence where you are seeing the cars moving at regular speed, and a superhuman is all that. Everyone wants to praise the Infinity War one, where it's like, oh, let's go, Wakanda Umabe, and then we go, and then they're moving faster. But it's done first in Civil War, and I like how you try to downplay the motorcycle catch, but that is an epic moment of slow motion and zoom. And it immerses you into that scene because of what you get. And yes, you try to say, oh, you don't get an emotion, but this is a catch. That's literally what I said. At the end of that scene of when he catches the shield, you might get a little bit of emotion because it's the reveal of Bucky. But the entire time in Civil War, you have the emotion from Black Panther. First of all, the reveal of Black Panther, the best scene of Black Panther in the entire MCU is from this chase scene in general, let alone what we get from
and time. All right, and then I'm going to be back over to you. 30 seconds to close it out.
You see their super speed in my chase because Cap is running so fast that he dents a wall when he runs into it. You said the motorcycle scene, I'm downplaying its epicness. The catch from Bucky is more epic than that catch. You said this is the best scene of T'Challa in that film. When T'Challa says, can you save your friend from me? Don't worry, Natasha. I will kill him myself. That's the epicness of Black Panther. Not the Black Panther, but T'Challa. My scene is 1 minute and 15 seconds of nothing but intensity. You literally have Black Panther jumps on top of the car, and it's 15 seconds of Cap driving. The lull, cool moment lull is no exaggeration. It's the truth.
All right, and then Henry, back over to you. Final stretch.
The question is literally, what is the best chase scene from a comic book movie? This is a chase scene that you literally could not see in any other movie other than a comic movie, and it is the best. If you actually insert your chase scene from any other movie, you will get that. You will literally get a super strong character that busts into a wall. You will literally get a character that can catch a shield because of whatever reason. In Captain America Civil War, you have them literally showcasing their ability of being superhumans and driving and running super fast, literally with a car. You have him catching a motorcycle and literally able to spin it, and you have the emotion attached to it. Civil War is better of this chase scene, hands down.
And time. All right. As a reminder to the people watching at home, I'm being a little more lenient on these guys with the time stop just because there is a slight lull on my internet, so it's coming through a little slower for them. So don't be too harsh on them. That said, we are going to go to the judges. Once again, I'm going to call your name out, and you're going to tell me who you voted for. With that said, Kevin, who'd you vote for?
Amaru.
Jacob.
Amaru.
Okay. So that is the first point to Amaru. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in the back, and we'll go ahead and move into the second question. And similarly, we've had two types of questions this year in play, kind of specialty questions. That was a viewer submitted question. This is a replay question. It is a question that has been played before. It was played, funny enough, in another, I'd call, explosive match between myself and Jay Burns. The question is, what is the best DreamWorks film? That match, we respectively took How to Train Your Dragon and Megamind. So those two are off the table. But that said, any other DreamWorks film over the course of their 30-year run, give or take, is on the table. Henry, you are up first this time. Timer starts when you begin speaking.
So the question is, what is the best DreamWorks film? And How to Train Your Dragon 1 is not acceptable. But luckily for me, that doesn't matter, because that is not only not the best movie within the DreamWorks franchise, but it's also not even the best movie within the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is the best DreamWorks movie, and it's one of those ones where it handles action, emotion, character arcs, and world building all in one. Essentially everything that we've culminated in this entire debate is literally explained in How to Train Your Dragon 2. It's one of those movies that you actually have a main character that you care about so much. You have a side character. I don't want to say a co-side character in Toothless where you care about, but you also have the backstory of the mother that we find out and has the emotional arc, but you also have the father. Everything that we built up in the first movie, that was good, really good even, because How to Train Your Dragon is probably the second one. Spoiler, his movie's not even better than How to Train Your Dragon 2, which is definitely not as good. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon 1, which is definitely not as good as How to Train Your Dragon 2, because of what we build up of the character of Stoic in the first one. Everything that you have is emotional, it's epic, you care about these characters, and it really sets the tempo of what an animated film can be.
And time. All right, Amaru, over to you, opening minute. And you're muted. We finally had one, ladies and gentlemen.
It took 2.5 fucking hours.
I had coughed and I didn't want to get into Henry's time, and of course that happened because I'm so damn focused. All right, sorry. My next thing will be my start.
You're good.
Kung Fu Panda is the best DreamWorks animated film because, one, it has the most beautiful looking animation and sound design ever in any DreamWorks, and that makes it more than an animated film because what that does is build its reverie to Kung Fu. The action, the way it looks when the arrows come down and there's a whole bunch of arrows and Tai Lung looking up at it, makes it just more epic how much intricacy they go into with the fighting, and they're using people like great voice actors like Jackie Chan, Lucy Liu, Randall Kim, and James Hong to show that they know what they're doing. That makes it more of an animated film. The humor is the best ever. It is adult humor that kids will love, like Mr. Ping saying, hey, I got your noodle recipe, like my father gave it to him, and his father gave it to him, and his father, hey, he got it and he won it in a Mahjong game. Or Oogway, probably the biggest asshole, but the most caring asshole who's realistic and sarcastic compared to Dustin Hoffman's serious Shifu, compared to the most enthusiastic Jack Black as Poe. But none of that compares to the story that Kung Fu Panda brings, that there is no secret ingredient, and it blows everything else out of the water.
All right, we're into the 90-second period. Henry, over to you.
So as I alluded to earlier, not only is How to Train Your Dragon the best How to Train Your Dragon movie, it's clearly the best DreamWorks movie, but you didn't even pick the best Kung Fu Panda movie. Kung Fu Panda 2 is a better movie because it expands on everything that you're talking about right now, but does it better because the world and the characters are all established. How to Train Your Dragon 2 handles the emotional aspect that we get from Hiccup and Toothless. Their character dynamic, their relationship is already set up from the first one and is expanding in the second one. The fact that Toothless is the reason that Stoic dies in the first one because he's finally turned into evil. It sets that you have everything that going with the main dragon and all the bad dragon and all that world building. It sets up both the visual aspect, but also the character aspects that you're dealing with, all that stuff. Everything from How to Train Your Dragon expands on the world that we got from How to Train Your Dragon 2. And guess what? If you would have picked Kung Fu Panda 2, I might have been nervous, my guy, but the fact you went Kung Fu Panda 1, it's very simple. It's very standard. It's essentially Karate Kid. It's one of those things where it does everything that you expect from that type of story, and it does a good job for a kid's film, but it's not the best. When you think of this type of film, Jack Black at his point, he's really coming within his own as Poe, and all the other characters, they're really just establishing themselves, and they're establishing the world, and they're establishing the dynamic that they can build within each other. How to Train Your Dragon 2 not only does that in spades, but it sets the tempo for not only being the best DreamWorks film, but also fighting itself as being one of the best like animated films in general, which guess what? Pixar exists. So that's a high bar to reach. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is easily the best DreamWorks film of all time.
And time. All right, Rue, over to you.
The best animated films are great for kids, but also has everything for adults. And both Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2 are both better than How to Train Your Dragon 2 because not only is it more humorous, is it more reverential to make it more of an animated film, does it look and sound better, but the fact that it goes to the story of there is no secret ingredient. You are in control of your own destiny, and you cannot control the things that it's out of control. Master Shifu made Tai Lung escape because he sent his minion over there, making sure that he knew he could not control that whole thing of believing in yourself is the only thing that makes you that controls your destiny. Is hits so much for adults and children, and the emotional bits in it is so surprising. The reason Tai Lung is the way that he is because Shifu's pride made him grow up to be that. The fact that the father had to go against the son, the fact that Poe had to believe in himself hits more emotionally because everything around it is great. While How to Train Your Dragon 2 is emotional. The problem, what makes it worse, is that your villain is one note. Your humor is too goofy with the lusting over Kristen Wiig's character, the lusting over Kit Harington's character, and your animation is nowhere near as beautiful. While both movies are great and both movies have that emotion, everything around that emotion in Kung Fu Panda is levels above How to Train Your Dragon 2, which means that the emotional bits that you see are more surprising, more hilarious, and hit harder than they do with How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Time. All right, Henry, back over to you. You have the final minute on the clock, or final 30 seconds, excuse me, on the clock. Time starts and you begin speaking.
Saying the villain is one note is bad because Drago, he's one of those characters where he's really set the tone because at the time the concept of the dragons being on our side has not expanded to worldwide at that point, so he doesn't understand it. You have Eric's character, Kit Harington's character, where he's really starting to he's borderline because of what we're learning of that. Valka's character, what we learn of everything, it's the reason that we have Ant-Man the Wasp that hits so hard is because what we got from How to Train Your Dragon, because it showcased that if you have a mother character from a underworld that they can really hit everything with a Hiccup and a Stoic and a Toothlake. It really hits way harder than anything in Kung Fu Panda.
And time. All right. And then Amaru, over to you. Final 30 seconds.
In a vacuum, both of our movies are great emotional movies. But when you take it out of a vacuum and look at everything else around it, Drago is a one-note villain that hates dragons, wants war, has no peace, and has no reason behind it. Tai Lung was brought up by Shifu to become the prideful, villainous person that he is based on one of our main characters. Everything about our humor, everything about the animation, everything outside of the emotion makes the emotion greater. So sum of all parts, Kung Fu Panda is better because everything is great, while How to Train Your Dragon 2 is just the emotional bits, but the other stuff around it is too much for kids.
Time. All right. Go ahead and bring the judges back in here. As we will jump into this. With that said, same thing as the last round. When I go to you, give me your vote.
Amaru.
And Jeremy.
Yeah, Amaru.
And with that, your winner by a final score of 5-3 and the new movie Battleground champion, Amaru Ruber Moses.
Wow. That was crazy. That was crazy.
All right. Ru, that was absolutely incredible, dude. I mean, the way, first off, I have to talk to you, man. The comeback. You go into the blind round down 3-1. You won 4 straight to come back and take the title. Look, Henry is a formidable opponent, and the fact that he has lost today is not something that, and I'll say this to him as well when we talk, nobody should be tarnishing how good a player Henry is following everything he's done so far over the last year. But it's with all of that in mind, the fact that you took the title and the fact that you did it in such a manner. How are you feeling right now?
Man, I am ecstatic. There's a couple things. First and foremost, Henry, my dude, you killed it in this. You went up 3-1 on me. That shows how good you are at this. And good to now answer your question. It was so good. I thought I won the Halloween question. Like I was like, all right, we're going in. He took outside story from me, but I got that. I was like, all right, I tied this up. We're probably gonna go into it 2-2 because he knows more about Saw than I do. And then he took the Halloween question. I was like, oh, okay, damn. I really need to get one of these. So I was really happy that I had gotten the Lord of the Rings question, the Middle Earth question. So when I hit the blind round, man, I'm giving myself props on this. I am blind round fucking king. I am taking it. I am taking that crown right now. Thank God for the blind round, because shit, I was in deep water there, and I'm just I'm very happy I was able to do that. The fact that I was able to do that, where every behind the scenes, every single question was split. Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
And legitimately, every single one was split. Again, the only one I thought I won was Halloween. Every single one, and I didn't win it. Every single one after that, I was like, this can go either way. Wherever they vote, I kind of don't care because it makes sense, which made me really happy when we got back to 3-3, because I was then like, this is what I expected, because this is what it should go to. It should go to this speed round, because we are debating our ass off. Again, Henry, my guy, you it's hard debating against you, man. It's hard. You are so good at this. And then the other thing I'm thinking, between the Schmodown and the fan leagues, I have been in 5 championship matches, and this is my first actual title. Like I have gone up against 4 times in some type of title match, and I tend to always lose it right at the end. And this is the first one I was actually able to get at the end. I literally had to make it get to the end to grab it. And I'm ecstatic, man. I'm real happy, not only because of the comeback, not only because I finally have a technical title under my belt, but again, because of the person that I had to go up against to do this. And it just, it validates that, like I've always said, I'm great at trivia. Debate is what I do. Like, this is what I do. This is my, like, I love doing this, and I love doing it, especially when I have somebody who is going to make me think harder and think faster and work smarter. And Henry was just the best tonight. I happened to be a little better. And hey, if we had the original judges, it could have gone the other way. That's how close this was. So that's a long ass tirade of the one first question you have asked me.
No, I was gonna say, well, in it, you touched on the second question that I had, which is obviously, you have always been, no matter what it is that you've competed in, a top competitor. But you're right. I know for a fact offhand, you made it to the TM Geek finals against Joe to play for like that initial title before they were ever titled. And that was an excellent match. I was there firsthand for that. But in the end, Joe was able to pull it out in the depths of that match. Obviously, the more populous thing people know is the Schmodown going up against arguably, the IG GOAT of that league in Kalinowski, and taking it all the way to, a deep cut Back to the Future question, which it took going all the way to the
A. Jones manure is something I will never forget for the rest of my fucking life.
And that's the thing, is you're so good at Geek that it took going all the way to the end with an all-time champ on a deep cut question that even still is not, like, up until the last year or two, was not even 100% looked at as a geek film. That's something that you more than likely had to learn deep going into the Schmodown for the first time. That's what it took to take you out of that competition. So to make it this far, to make it here, to win it, congratulations, sir, because I'm incredibly overjoyed for you. Now, the second question is, you are going to get some time to obviously enjoy this. We're not going to put you back into the ringer just right away, but it is going to have to happen sooner than later. And the first match of next season is going to determine who you are playing. Now, because we've aired all of these last handful of matches over the course of a week, back to back to back, if you have not watched the semifinals matches, skip ahead a little bit. Just skip till you see Henry on screen, because I'm going to spoil the matches for you now. The 2 competitors who will be playing the first match of next year to take you on in the first title match of next year are Joe Fairley and Jay Burns. Obviously, Joe Fairley, someone you've competed against, a former teammate of yours, somebody who you know exceedingly well, somebody who you have played in the Battleground before. Or don't have you? I don't know actually. Now that I say that out loud.
Yes, I have.
You have, yes.
Yeah, and he beat me
You had to
in
beat.
a speed round.
Yes, you had to beat him to get here. And then
I got him back. I got him back after.
yes, you got him back.
So
That's correct.
In the previous iteration, we have played each other, and in the current iteration, we have also played.
You have, yes. And Jay Burns, obviously, similar to Henry prior to tonight, Jay Burns is the guy who can just fuck up a person's record and put that one on the end of it. And he's made it all the way to the end of the tournament this time as well. And obviously, you know, Jay's your guy. I'm going to do you a disservice by saying Wu-Tang for life, but I know that's your thing. Obviously, you got love for both of these guys, but do you have a preference? How do you feel about that matchup?
Here's the deal. Not only do I do this for Jay, I do this for Joe. That's how close I am to both of them, because both of them were former teammates. Demolition Men with Joe, Oh Dirty Chinese Restaurant for Jay. I don't have a preference. I maybe Jay, because I haven't gotten my revenge for this one loss. I got my revenge against Joe in this run. But it doesn't matter either way. Both of them are real close friends. Both of them are incredible debaters. And again, I have that connection with both of them. So it's going to be a battle. And I can't wait to defend it.
Absolutely. Well, I know obviously with the Schmodown coming to an end earlier this year, I've seen over the course of different things on Facebook that next year marks your kind of official return to playing within the fan leagues. Obviously, we're not a fan league. I don't ask trivia questions. But let this win serve as the welcome back, sir. Congratulations, and we will see you next season. Congratulations, as I will put you in the back and bring on Henry Sanchez. And look, Henry, we've known each other for years. We've always had this joking back and forth. I've made many a joke about how I don't like to fill up your big head, but I'm going to 100% do that right now. You are an excellent competitor. You are top class of this league. You, again, all time, Joe was 9-0. He was just like in trivia. He was the player people feared playing in this league. You took him out with, all things considered, compared to some of the other matches, relative ease. You defended against me. You defended against Chad. You pushed this all the way to the end. There is nothing in this that you should be disappointed at, with the obvious exception of not being the winner. How are you feeling, all things considered?
Bummer, man. Similar to what Rue just said, this is his first time ever hitting that mark. And that was me when I got this initially. You know what I mean? So I had a private conversation with Pez immediately when he asked me, how do you feel? And I was like, I feel fine. He was like, really? Why? I'm like, I set my legacy, dude. I've done this. I've established who I am as a debater, and I've established who I am as a champ with 2 defenses, you know what I mean, against quality players, you know what I mean? So it's like, don't get me wrong, in no universe am I ever okay with a loss,
right?
But it's one of those things where it's like, if I were to lose, it's like no one's doubting me as a paper champ, you know what I mean? So like, I am not worried about my legacy with a loss. It's just a bummer where it's like how it went down, being up 3-1. Rue is a fighter, dude, and I do take I'm mad about it. I'm like, oh, I'm the Flying King champ, because I do think I genuinely got that first one, and I'm excited to talk to multiple people where I'm like, hey, what was your opinions on that first blind round, and just get their opinion. You know, no shade on the judges, but just multiple perspectives.
And I will say, to give some behind the scenes perspective, if there's anyone who hates the production schedule for this show more than anyone else, it is Henry, because he hates having to wait a long time to talk about it with other people who weren't here. At least you don't have to wait too long.
Exactly. So and this is the first time, I swear to God, I've done multiple trivia. I've been doing this for fucking 8 years almost at this point now. This is the first match where I'm like, I'm going to wait until the release date, send it to people and be like, what is your thoughts? You know what I mean? Because I'm proud of the results and I'm proud of the production in general, but also I'm confident in the wait, because I'm like, I want you to experience this as a fan, because god damn, dude. Even though I genuinely believe something should have went different, and I'm confident in my ability, and I think that it could have been different, Rue is a bad motherfucker. And I have no shame. Like, I literally privately, behind the scenes, I was like, Rue, I am honored to defend against you. And I'm not, there's no ass kissing. I am honored to defend against you because you are a great competitor, both in the trivia sphere, obviously, both geek and general, but also clearly in debate. And I want to double down on what Rue said. Debate is my thing. Because guess what? Trivia at the end of the day, it's based on luck, essentially, based on, luck on what you know. Debate, it's a combination of what you know, but also of how you can prepare and talk. And there are scenarios in this one. What you said earlier, 2 pitch questions. We had to talk. We had to pitch our answers. There was only one question that was like the best. The rest was like low key, like we need to tell you guys why our answer is right, and that even happened in the blind and the speed. So I'm obviously, as a competitor, I'm bummed out. But as a fan of this league, this was a banger match, and I am honored to be a part of it, and I am excited to see what my future holds. 8-2, two KOs. I feel bad for whoever's next.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what we're going to focus on, So going into next season, you are 8-2 with 2 knockouts. Statistically, you are, again, aside from the champion, who is always the player on top, you are still the number 1 statistic player in the league. Between now and then, the only person who could overtake you is Joe, should he beat Jay, because at that point, I believe he would be at 9 wins, if memory serves me correct. But either way, you are still up there. And as was set at the very beginning of the league, again, I don't expect people to remember this because it was 130 matches and 17 months ago. You did earn 2 defenses, which does mean you have the right to immediately go back into the title picture. So whether it be, because again, we're going to see how many players are in that upper echelon, how does the title picture set up for the start. If you don't have a number 1 contenders match right off the bat, you will be playing for one immediately. You will go straight back into that picture. So I guess before we close out, to sort of shift the conversation, I will ask you, as somebody who is obviously familiar with Rue, familiar with Joe, and familiar with Jay, who do you like of those 2 players to win the tournament and go up against Rue in that next title match?
Well, obviously, I would like to play Rue again because I want to prove that this was different. But also, I would like to make Jay my bitch because fuck him. And also, Joe, I'm looking at you, Joe. I want you to watch this. Take it seriously. Play me seriously. Let's see what happens. Because I know the last match, it wasn't as serious as you can be. I want your best, and I still want to beat your ass. So either of them, let's go. I'm excited. I love this league.
That's a political answer. Any of them.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, because I'm going to win either of them. I'm going to hurt all of your feelings. I love you all, and I feel sorry for you equally as much.
Absolutely. Well, somebody else will probably come first, and we can pray for them when the time comes. But dude,
I'm going to give them the potato treatment.
Jesus. All right. Well, look, Henry, again, man, you are a top player. You have absolutely proved it this year. Prior to this match, I've jokingly taken the crown of the competitor who challenged you the most, because our match did technically go the furthest. Fuck me. Both of you are better than me. Fuck this. How the hell did I ever get to a title match? You guys are incredible, and you put on a show, and even in loss, this is still better than some of the wins you've put forth, and that is the definition of improvement, sir. So I look forward to seeing you again next year. I don't say that often, but in this context, I will, and we will see you when the time comes in 2023 as we put them in the back. And that, guys, is a wrap on this title match. It's also a wrap on the movie Battleground season. And I want to take a minute before we wrap up just to kind of speak to the audience. If you're still here after 2.5 hours, give or take, I appreciate that. I don't know why, but I appreciate it. When we started this back, I guess at this point it's closer to like 19, 20 months ago, I put up a post on the Facebook page that said, I was playing around with the idea. The show had been kind of off the air for about a year, give or take. I was playing with the idea of bringing it back. Who's interested? And essentially overnight, I had a full roster. Which I consider to be an incredibly lucky thing, that people were A, active enough on the Facebook pages, but also B, interested enough in the concept. And there's been ups and downs along the way. Most of the ups come from the competitors' performances. Most of the downs come from the slight little slip-ups as I sort of grew as a producer and worked my way back into making this show run to be what it absolutely can. But it's been a ride, and the last 17 months or so have been absolutely incredible. And I appreciate every single person, whether you are a player, whether you are judge. I want to say thank you especially to, Matt Beer for having this channel and letting us run it on his platform. I want to say thank you to specifically Henry, Jacob, and Kevin, but also everyone else who's a part of the team behind the scenes. I know that on air and when you talk to me in production, it seems like I'm doing 99% of the things, and that is true. But the thing that makes this show really tick is having people you can rely on in the moments where you can't rely on yourself. And that is truly what makes the show run to a certain level. So I want to thank all of them for their contributions in making this run. To the players, to the judges, to the people who watch at home, to the people who aren't involved but still check out the videos, to everyone. The show has seen genuine growth and improvement both in its competitors, and the show has seen genuine improvement and growth in the view of YouTube. And look, we're not the schmo now. I'm still recording this bitch from my bedroom, but it makes it worthwhile to want to participate and want to keep doing this week in and week out. And for that, I do appreciate it. With that said, though, we will be back in 2023, and we have some incredible matches coming at you in 2023. We're going to take the Christmas season off. I hope all of you enjoy your Christmas season. If you are a production of the show, expect to hear from me sometime in early January, or expect to hear from January 29th. That is when Joe Fairley versus Jay Burns, the tournament final, is going to go up. And we will... I froze up. Well, it wouldn't be if I wasn't reading the comments. Either way, I'm talking at this point. I'm going to wrap it up. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Congratulations to our new champion, Amaru Moses. Congratulations on a great run to Henry. Thank you to my judges tonight, Jeremy, Kevin, and Jacob. And on behalf of everyone here at TMG Entertainment and everyone involved with the movie Battleground, my name is Aaron Knoll. We'll be back in 2023. See ya.